Welcome back here to Live Now from Fox. This is Andrew Kraft. Thanks for being with us on your Tuesday night. A lot of major sports stories really breaking today, one of which we want to discuss with our friend of the program, sports legal expert, Dan Lust. He's joining me now via Zoom. Dan, the big story that just broke, I believe an hour ago, we're learning that fired NFL coach Brian Flores is suing the NFL. He's claiming he was at the hands of racist hiring, discriminatory practices. What have you learned since this broke, and what does this mean for the league going forward?
I think what we've learned is that the NFL was not ready for this. The NFL has released a statement. The Broncos, Denver Broncos, have released a statement. Of course, the New York Giants, who are kind of at the heart of this, have also released a statement. I think this caught the NFL world off guard, mainly because Brian Flores is in the process of interviewing for several other head coaching jobs. So, it's quite the move to be suing the NFL, and the Giants and a number of your potential employers, while at the same time interviewing for a job, right? So Brian Flores certainly acknowledges that in his complaint that he might be costing himself his career by launching this lawsuit, but he feels it's a very important cause and something that needs to be fought for. So, Andrew, I'm sure we can pack into it, but he's suing on behalf of African-American coaches, general managers, dating back years. So this is not just a Flores versus the NFL. It's a lot of people versus football.
Okay, Dan, give us a sense, first off, though, briefly, of Brian Flores' career, how he came up through the NFL, and where was his last team?
Yeah, so people will know Brian Flores. His name started to be pushed around in these head coaching circles when he was a member of the New England Patriots coaching staff, and Bill Belichick, who's kind of relevant to the story in this lawsuit. But eventually he left the New England Patriots and went to in-division rival, the Miami Dolphins. Had a pretty successful run with the Dolphins, had probably exceeded expectations last year, and then had a year this year where they just missed out on the playoffs. But I think surprising, Brian Flores was a surprising fire this year, taking a team that that started off pretty poorly and then won a number of games in a row, I believe 6 or 7 games. So he was a surprising coaching fire, and then everyone kind of collectively said, well, Brian Flores will be the first on a number of teams' list. And as of today, February 1st, Brian Flores remained unemployed, which was a little bit surprising. But he had interviewed for basically every main head coaching gig, and he mentions the New York Giants. Definitely at the center of this story. That was his dream coaching job. And when he interviewed with the Giants, he thought he had a real chance. And that's the crux of this lawsuit, that they'd already made their coaching decision. It was kind of a sham interview. So that's kind of at the forefront of this case today.
Now, from what I understand, Brian Flores found out about the Giants' hiring decision before he was told he didn't get it. Is that what he's alleging?
Yeah, essentially. So that's where Bill Belichick pops in again.
Right.
Bill Belichick, future Hall of Famer, maybe one of the most successful coaches in the history of the sport. He knows Brian Flores. He used to be on his staff. And Bill Belichick, again, I'm not going to say Bill Belichick sent the text, but what purports to be a text by Bill Belichick is that essentially the Giants already made up their decision to hire Brian Daboll, offensive coordinator with the Buffalo Bills. At the time, they had you in for an interview. So if you want to call it a sham interview or the fix being in, Brian Flores says, hey, they just had him in to check off that box, the Rooney Rule, which is an important rule in football. It requires you to have coaches with minority individuals to make sure that the NFL is kind of working on diversity. But what Brian Flores is alleging is that this was kind of a sham, and that it's a long-standing practice in the NFL to have these boxes checked, but not actually really going through the process to actually hire minority head coaches. So that's why this is a class action lawsuit trying to bring in coaches of years past as well.
So as, for those who don't know what the Rooney Rule is that kind of an unspoken kind of tacit agreement, or is that league policy?
No, that's formal league policy.
Okay.
And it's a formal rule. It's not something that's off the books, but it was enacted to try to influence change, right? And I think part of the troubling thing about this Brian Flores complaint, and I think it's artfully crafted, he goes to the lengths to post pictures of the coaches in the NFL and the owners of the NFL, and it's predominantly white faces. Flores is saying the Rooney Rule had good intentions, that its design was to force teams to interview minority head coaches to give them a real shot. But he said that this system has failed. And you don't need to look any further, right, than these pictures, right? Picture says 1,000 words. So I think what Flores is saying, the NFL has not done enough, and enough is enough. If it costs me my career, I'm top, one of the top, coaching candidates in the NFL. If it costs me my career, I'm willing to do it. And it brings up shades of Colin Kaepernick, who lost his NFL career fighting for, a cause of, whatever you want to call it, but he filed a lawsuit against the NFL and never played in the NFL again. And that's the sentiment that I think Flores is bringing up. But this cause is more important than me. I'm here to fight for people that came before me and the people that will come after me.
Okay, Dan, I have a statement from the NFL I want to put up and read it for our viewers here. And you can see it goes as follows. The NFL and our clubs are deeply committed to ensuring equitable employment practices and continue to make progress in providing equitable opportunities throughout our organizations. Diversity is core to everything we do, and there are few issues on which our clubs and our internal leadership teams spend more time. We will defend against these claims, which are without merit. So kind of what you would expect from the NFL, getting on the offensive here. Final thoughts, where do you see this going? This seems to be a story that has legs, much like, you follow the Dan Snyder Washington football team allegations quite closely. It seems to be of that same merit.
Yeah, this has legs. In a court of law, the NFL is going to be inclined to, as you mentioned, Andrew, they'll go on the offensive. They'll make a motion to dismiss and/or move this case to arbitration. So that's on a procedural level what the NFL will do. But from a PR standpoint, it's going to be tough for the NFL to defend this in the court of public opinion because, right, as I mentioned, a picture says 1,000 words. The fact that there are, no, African American owners, there are very few coaches. I think that says a lot. And if the NFL's goal is to have diversity, I think objectively, right, I think Flores makes the point well that they have failed. So, elements, need to be satisfied, obviously, within the complaint. But this is not going to stop people from having these sometimes, uncomfortable conversations. Flores wants to push us in that direction. So, yeah, we'll see. Next step is certainly to certify the class that he's alleging here, and then the NFL, I expect to try to get back on the offensive with a motion to dismiss or move to arbitration.